Hi everyone! Today we're going to be talking about the difference between expressions and equations. And expressions and equations are very similar. There's just one tiny difference between how the two types of math information are given. Either way, an expression or an equation is kind of like a set of math directions that can go along with the problem or the story that you're dealing with. So let's look a little bit more closely at each of them. First, an expression. This is a math phrase that stands for one number. And you might see examples of expressions like this: 44 minus 6, or 18 plus 9, or 18 divided by r. All of those are expressions because they're shorter sets of math directions that represent one number. An equation is a math sentence that says two things are equal. So an equation is a little bit different because you will actually have an equal sign. For example, 5 plus 1 equals 6, or 3n equals 27. These math directions are a little bit longer because they're showing that both on the left and the right of the equal sign have the same value. Now, a memory trick to help you remember that is equations have equal signs. It almost looks like the word equal is right at the beginning of the word equation. That's going to be the most important difference to keep in mind when you're asked to write an expression or an equation from a story problem. You might have also noticed that some of these expressions and equations just have numbers, and some of them have letters. For example, this expression 5p minus 1 has a letter tucked in there. That's because there are two different types of expressions and equations. This year in 5th grade, we'll deal most with numerical expressions. And numerical expressions and equations are made up entirely of numbers. So, for example, I'm going to outline those in orange. We have on the expression side, parentheses 5 times 3 minus 10, 18 plus 9, and 44 minus 6. And on the equation side, 5 plus 1 equals 6, 20 times 10 equals 200, and 18 divided by 2 equals 9. All of these use only numbers, so they are numerical expressions and equations. Now, if you're looking for a little bit of a stretch, the other types of expressions and equations that use letters are called algebraic expressions and equations. And each of these letters represent a mystery number that we're trying to find. So for example, you can see on the expression side 5p minus 1 and 18 divided by r. And for the equations, 3n equals 27 and 16 minus q equals 7. Each of these has a letter holding the place of a number. Those are called algebraic expressions. And again, we don't get into them so much in 5th grade, but if you're looking for a stretch, you can challenge yourself by trying to solve an algebraic expression or equation. And there are some common phrases that you see. 7 more than n would be adding 7 items to a mystery letter n. The difference of 7 and n would be a subtraction problem. The product of 7 and n could be written as 7 times n, or if you see a number right next to a letter, kind of like 3n equals 27, that's a signal that you're multiplying. 5 less than n would be another subtraction example, and the quotient of 7 and n would be a division problem or written as a fraction. So that's the basics of some expressions and equations. Let's take a look at how this comes up in a word problem. You might be given a word problem and asked to write an expression based on what that says. Basically, you're writing the set of math directions for someone to be able to solve. So let's look at an example. This says Ethan collected 16 seashells. He lost 4 of them while walking home. This would be a subtraction example, so your expression or your math directions would be 16 minus 4. Or you could have something like Yasmin bought 4 bracelets. Each bracelet cost $3. This would be a multiplication example, so you would be taking the 4 and multiplying it by $3 because you're making 4 groups of $3. You could see an example like Amani did 10 jumping jacks, then she did 7 more. We know this would be an adding example, so our math expression would be 10 plus 7. Or you could see Daryl has a board that is 8 feet long. He cuts it into pieces that are each 2 feet long. Well, this would be a division example. So we would take those 8 feet and divide it into 2-foot long sections. Now, each of those examples are only one step. You could, however, see a 2-step problem. So let's look at one that looks like that. This says Rashad had 25 stamps. He shared them among himself and 4 friends. Then he found 2 more stamps in his pocket. So right now I'm getting that mental movie. I'm figuring out what's going on. I see a group of friends that are sharing some stamps, and then I see Rashad reaching his hand into his pocket and pulling out 2 more. So now let's go line by line and figure out how to use each piece of information to help us write an expression. First, I know that Rashad had 25 stamps. That's going to be important, but I don't have enough information to use that number yet. So I'm keeping it in the back of my mind until I go to the second sentence. The second sentence reads, he shared them among himself and 4 friends. Well, the first thing that's important to recognize is that himself and 4 friends means there were 5 total people. So I know the first thing Rashad did was he took those 25 stamps and shared them with 5 people. Then he found 2 more stamps in his pocket. So that tells me that after he shared the first group of stamps, he found 2 more. What I can then figure out is the first step I need to do is I need to show that he's sharing the stamps. To share stamps, I'm going to divide. So I'll first start by dividing the 25 stamps he started with by the 5 friends. Finally, to show that he found 2 more stamps, I'll add 2 after that. Those are some examples of the common types of word problems you might see when you're asked to write an expression. Thanks for watching.